Hello, welcome to Encore here on France 24. I'm Rochelle Harrison-Pless. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's cinema show, Gus Van Sant returns with an uplifting drama comedy. A French indie flick explores open relationships, and Beatrix Potter's beloved bunny tale, Peter Rabbit, gets the Hollywood treatment.
This doesn't just go away. You have to fight with it or you'll die.
Bah, c'est pas un film sur ma vie, c'est sur la polyamorie.
Sur la quoi?
There lived a rabbit named Peter with a blue jacket.
Sorry!
And no pants.
And to talk about those films and lots more, I'm joined on set by France 24's film critic, Lisa Nesselson. Hello, Lisa. Good to see you.
Hello, Rochelle.
We kick off with the latest film from director Gus Van Sant, which opens here in France this week. It's a dramedy based on a true story. It's called Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot, starring Joaquin Phoenix as an alcoholic, disabled cartoonist.
I know the title seems a little odd, but it is instantly recognizable to fans of the transgressive American cartoonist John Callahan. That includes me. The film is based on Callahan's autobiography and does a fine job of translating his delectably tasteless and self-deprecating humor to the screen. The title is the punchline to a cartoon. A posse of lawmen come across an abandoned wheelchair, and the sheriff reassures the men with him, "Don't worry, he won't get far on foot." If you think that's tasteless because it makes fun of the handicapped, it's worth noting that the cartoonist himself ended up in a wheelchair and only took up cartooning after the accident that left him severely paralyzed. And in a story that starts in 1972, the accident came about because Callahan was a serious full-time alcoholic who saw no compelling reason to give up drinking just because he was a tetraplegic who had to unscrew the cap to his liquor bottles with his teeth. I really enjoyed this movie. It's funny and touching and even educational about how the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous functions. Here's a glimpse.
So John, you want to tell us about your drinking?
Well, I started drinking when I was 13. I liked it a lot, and I never stopped.
Aren't you glad you met us?
John doesn't like us.
Well, of course I like you. You're crazy.
We like you too.
Wait till you get to know me.
Lisa, this project had been in the works for a long time, and there's a somewhat twisted backstory there.
And there is indeed, spanning 25 years. Robin Williams bought the rights to Callahan's autobiography in 1994, and he was going to play the role if they could get a good enough script. He especially wanted to do it as a tribute to his friend, the actor Christopher Reeve, who ended up paralyzed after a horseback riding accident. Gus Van Sant, you'll remember, directed Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting, and in 1995, he directed a barely 19-year-old Joaquin Phoenix in what's probably Van Sant's best film, along with The Drugstore Cowboy, and that's To Die For. So here is the actor speaking about the man he's playing.
He was constantly striving to be a better person and a better artist. And he was, and to have he pursued a spirituality that I think is admirable.
Some people might say that an uplifting story about someone bouncing back from rock bottom has been done to death. What makes this one stand out, Lisa?
Well, for one thing, many of Callahan's cartoons, which have this pleasantly sketchy quality because he can barely hold a pen, are brought to life via animation, which is a perfect touch. A highlight among good performances is Jonah Hill as the well-to-do and very gay leader of the Alcoholics Anonymous group that John eventually joins. And there are two successful musicians in the cast. Beth Ditto of Gossip fame is very good as a fellow alcoholic, and Carrie Brownstein of the group Slater-Kinney is very good as John's put-upon social worker who, in that wonderful thing about American healthcare, is worried that he might lose his disability benefits because he's making too much money as a cartoonist. I'm not sure we can answer the question, what is art, especially in a 12-minute cinema show, but Gus Van Sant offers one of the best definitions I have ever seen of what is an artist. He says that what all artists have in common is that once they find their calling, they never, ever stop pursuing it, no matter what it is. That's the obsessional aspect of their chosen field that makes them stand out. And so once John began drawing, he drew compulsively until the very end of his life. He died in 2010.
Well, it got mixed reviews, but I, for one, am looking forward to seeing that film. Now, in the wake of the Me Too and Time's Up movements, the film industry is shining a spotlight on women in film. Now, this French movie, Lutine, hits theatres this week. It's an independent flick, written, directed, produced by and starring Isabelle Brouet. The story is unconventional, to say the least.
You could say that. I think it is unusual. There aren't a lot of films out there about polyamory, which is the practice of being in loving relationships with more than one partner with the full consent of all parties concerned. No sneaking around, no jealousy. Nobody says it's easy, but apparently it actually can be done. I love this director's first feature back in 2004, The Pleasure Is All Mine, starring Marie-Jolaine as a sexually active young woman whose clitoris goes on strike from one day to the next. It was a very novel comedy. French female directors, it's worth remembering, have been making very forthright films for decades, and The Pleasure Is All Mine was infinitely more enjoyable than two way out there, in-your-face, borderline inane feminist diatribes that got lots more attention around that time. Catherine Breillat's dour romance, and co-directed by two women, the gritty, violent, morally bankrupt Baise-moi, the translation of which I can't say on television.
Right.
Brouet decided to make this film Lutine when 10 years went by and she wasn't able to get another project off the ground, so she decided to self-produce and co-star in a freewheeling comedy about polyamory. Here she is in the film that's sort of within the film.
J'avais beau être prévenu, mais c'est quand même dur de t'imaginer avec un autre. De savoir que tu prends du plaisir avec un autre.
Je comprends.
Attends. Ouais, excuse-moi 2 secondes. Mais ça, c'est une vraie scène?
Bah oui.
Ça. Donc tu lui as vraiment dit que t'avais pris du plaisir à m'embrasser?
Ben oui, enfin, le polyamour, c'est d'être honnête, non? Enfin, la moindre des choses, c'est pas se mentir. Je sais pas, enfin, tu trompes ta femme, toi.
Ouais, enfin, il y a des limites à l'honnêteté. C'est une chose d'être d'accord avec le principe, mais c'en est une autre d'entendre tous les détails.
Lisa, the film fuses documentary and fiction. Does that combination work?
This film didn't do that much for me personally. However, I am absolutely positive, based on the audience I saw it with, that it will inform and entertain others. And I am full of admiration for anybody who gets a film made on their own terms, on a shoestring budget. The film's been shown at festivals and polyamory events literally all over the world, and it won 2 major awards at the Vancouver International Women in Film Festival. If you want to dazzle your friends on the topic of polyamory, Françoise Simper appears in the film. She coined the term lutinage, from which the film takes its title. She's been in polyamorous relationships for over 40 years, has written some books, and she had wondered why it's supposedly inherently better to love just one person rather than several. So she says, if you went to a therapist and says, I have just one friend and I absolutely don't ever want another one ever, well, then the therapist would say,
voice.
You're really pathologically possessive. So it makes sense extended to romance, and for most people, easier said than done. As this movie investigates, so more power to it.
Well, it certainly sounds intriguing, Lisa. Right, to a slightly more conventional tale now. The British film The Sense of an Ending, based on a novel by Julian Barnes, has a stellar cast, and it's an exploration of regrets, buried secrets, consequences, and the paths we choose in life. Tell us more.
I don't want to say too much, but whenever a cast features both Jim Broadbent and Charlotte Rampling, you probably can't go too far wrong. Director Deeptesh Batra's first film was the very satisfying The Lunchbox. Family secrets make excellent fodder for movies and for novels. The secrets here are very slippery because the diary of a deceased individual and more than one stiff upper lip are incorporated into the mix. And if I'm being enigmatic, I think it's because people should find out for themselves. Broadbent's character sells high-end photographic equipment, so he deals in precision instruments, but his life is about to get a lot messier. Let's take a look.
Your mother left something to me in her will. And when I spoke with your mother's solicitor, I was told that the item that has been left to me was a diary written by Adrian.
I don't have the diary.
Excuse me?
I burnt it.
But it belongs to me.
At least have the right to
know what is in it?
Legally, yes. Morally, no.
Well, Lisa, that movie's going on my list of films to see as well. Now we finish with a brand new CGI live-action telling of Beatrix Potter's beloved Peter Rabbit, known here in France as Pierre Lapin. The bunny got the Hollywood treatment and knocked Black Panther out of the top spot at the UK box office. Does that tell us anything, Lisa?
Yes, I think it tells us that the African kingdom of Wakanda is completely made up by two white Jewish comic book artists, whereas talking rabbits are completely true to life. Also, the gestation period for rabbits is noted for its brevity, which means there are probably lots of bunnies to buy tickets. Beatrix Potter, the noted female author and illustrator of animal tales, who was born in 1866 and died in 1943, could never have imagined how realistic computer-generated imagery would end up being in the 21st century. And amazingly, this is not the only feature-length animated film about rabbits in French cinemas right now. There's also L'École des Lapins, which means school for rabbits. And perhaps at that school, the pupils are learning that Potter's first book, The Tale of Peter Rabbit, was published privately in 1900. In film lingo, a flop is a bad thing, but being floppy is perfectly okay if you're a rabbit. Just ask Flopsy or Mopsy or Cottontail. I'm afraid I haven't actually seen this yet because here in France, rabbits speak French, and for me, Peter Rabbit simply must express himself in English, but the trailer looks wonderful.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Lisa. Always a pleasure. We'll leave you with a clip from Peter Rabbit. Catch up with past cinema shows on our website and stay in touch on social media. Keep it right here on France 24.
What I tell you, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Oh! Rats! Run! This way! Ah!